Well, we've set up our canvas layer for our UI. Now we're going to create our first UI element, which will be the player's health meter. We can delete this texture rect right here. We're going to be using more texture rects though, and talking a little bit more about them as well. We'll be using, let's save this, create a new scene, and do a user interface node. So just the green one here, which will give us a basic control node. And you can see it draws this big box over the whole view, and that's because the anchors for this are automatically set up to take up the whole screen. And basically anchors are used when you have a dynamic screen size to tell the UI where it needs to try and stay. Does it need to try and stay on the left side of the screen, the right side of the screen? Does it need to try and take up the entire screen? You can give the UI that information and it will be fluid when you're changing sizes of the game window. However, we're going to actually be setting this on the top left, which didn't change anything in how much of the screen it takes up, but if you come into our margin, you can see that it updated these numbers. They were all 0 previously, and now they're not all set to 0. And we'll actually drag this up just a little bit because we don't need to take up the whole screen. Let's rename this health meter, and we'll save this under UI, the UI folder. So our health meter is going to have two parts to it. It's going to have two texture rects, which will be a back one, which will be the health meter when it's doesn't have health, and a front one, which will be the meter when it has health, when it's full on health. So let's create a texture rect right here. This one will be our back one. You can see we don't see anything here. A texture rect is basically, it's like a sprite node, but it's used for UI specifically. And so you'll want to use it when you can instead of using a sprite if it's a UI element that needs resizing and a layout, anchors and stuff. So let's come find in our UI here, we've got a health meter empty, so we'll drag this up and drop it right here. You can see that is, we can see this now. And we'll drag this. If you hold Control and then just drag it to where it takes up. If you click on the health meter, it will still be large like this. If you click on the texture rect, it should fit nice and snug with this texture. We're going to call this empty. Oops, I bumped the mic a little there. We're going to call this empty because this is what the meter will look like when it's empty. We could actually, so a couple things we're going to do here. We've got some properties over here on the side. We can click expand, and what this does, it will stretch the sprite to fit the size. I'm actually just going to do Control Z to undo that. And we do want it to expand. However, we don't want this stretch mode. This is scale on expand. We want tile. We're going to use the tile. That way we can actually tile this image as we stretch it. If you hold Control, you can see we're tiling the image out. This gives us a dynamic health meter that we can set with a single small sprite that we can set to be any size. Let's say you want your character to have 3 max health, we can set that. Or if you want it to have, this much max health. I can't even tell what that is, maybe 10. I think it's 10. So you can set that manually in code by altering the rect. So this rect size right here, you can see that it changes as I alter this in the editor. Well, we can change it in code too. And our sprite will update in the same way that we see it updating in the editor, only in game. Cool. We're going to set it to be 4. We'll give our player 4 base health for now. Okay, and there's some other things that you can do with all control nodes, but we're not going to be messing with those. This is all we need for now. However, we're going to duplicate our empty one here. So just click on it and do Control D. Call it full, and we'll give it a new sprite, which will be health meter right here. And there's our full one. And just like the empty one, we can actually drag this, and you can see what it'll look like. This would be full health. This would be us losing health and half our health. So we'll be setting this manually in code in order to reflect how much health we have. Now that we've got this set up, we're going to take our health meter, the base node right here, the root node. We're going to click on it, hold Control, and shrink it down to be the same size as our other nodes. Perfect. Now we'll attach a script to this. And this is where we're going to manually alter stuff in code. However, our player stats is going to need another signal because we have the player died here. We're going to need another signal here. We'll call this signal player health changed. Well, since it's called player stats, maybe we'll just call it health changed. Player health changed. It doesn't matter. We'll call it player health changed to match the player died right here. And we're going to emit this signal after our health has already changed right here. And it's going to take the new health value. So value, emit signal, player health changed, health. That's it. We'll just emit the signal. Now our UI our health meter can actually do something with that. So we're going to get access to player stats, var player stats equals resource loader. We'll use our resource loader, player stats. We'll get access to both of our texture recs. So we'll say on ready var empty. Well, actually, we're only going to get access to the full one. You would want to get access to both and update both, and also have a player max health changed if you're going to update the player's max health, which we may end up doing that later, but for now we'll just worry about the actual health. They'll be locked in at 4. Here we'll say player stats.connect. We need to connect the signal, right? Player health changed. Self. We'll have a function called on player health changed. So I'm just going to copy this, create a new function. We need to pass the value, and we'll say we need to get access to the size of this texture rect, right? So full dot rect size dot x. So this is only the x value that we're going to be modifying. Equals, let's change this to amount. That makes it sound like the amount that it changed. Maybe value is better. Let's come into player. Yeah, I named it value here too. So we'll leave it as value. So it's going to be value. So let's say our health is 2, right? Times 5. We'll just do that, times 5. And I chose 5 because the texture here, if you click on it, you can see it's actually 5 pixels in the x direction. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 pixels in the x direction. So for every 1 health, we need to go over 5 pixels or back 5 pixels, right? So that's why we're doing value, which will be our health amount, say 1 times 5. So if our health amount is 1, we'll multiply by 5. So the x width will be 5, which would be 1 instance of it. Now, if the value is 2, it would be 2 times 10, 2 times 5, which would give us 10. The problem with this system, we need to actually attach it to our UI now. Come to the UI, click on it, instance, player, what did I call it? Health meter. Health meter. And I'm going to reposition this to be, hold control here. We'll go. Oh, we don't have pixel snap on. Use pixel snap. Okay, so I'm going to come 4 pixels. And if you look at the position here, it should be 4 and 4. And it should be top left. I think it is top left. Anchored top left. So let's run the game now. And you can see if we take damage, our health will come down. We do actually need to make one more change. And the change is, if you notice here, our empty one, let's hide the full one. If you notice our empty one here, in order to have 4 bars, if you look at the size here, you can see the size is 21. But 4 times 5 should be 20, right? Why do we have 21? Well, it's because we're actually going 1 pixel into the next bar. And that, because see, this right here is what we would get if we only did 4 times 5, 20. But we need to go 1 pixel into the next bar in order to get the edge right here. Because the texture itself actually only goes to here. It doesn't have this extra. But if it did have the extra, then that would mess up our thing because we'd have 2 black lines between each one. So anyways, the actual formula isn't value times 5. It's value times 5 plus 1. So we're going to add that 1 here. And we don't see it in the actual health because we have the background one. I got to make this visible again. We have the background one there to make up for it. But when we update this formula eventually to allow us to update our max health, then we're going to want to have that 1 there so that the max health updates properly and has the black border around it as well. So there's the formula. Now we actually have a health UI showing in our game, and really you could make a full game out of what we have here. It would probably be one giant level because we don't have a way to move between levels, but you can fight the enemies and the player can die. You can see the health go down when the player takes damage. So we've made a lot of progress. And we still need to fix this, which I've done a little bit of research on that, and I'm like 99% sure that somehow we're getting an extra point added to that path. And I don't know why that is, but what I did is I actually opened up the path resource in Visual Studio Code to see what the resource looks like, and it does have an extra point in it. So for some reason left right has got an extra point. But I think we could make our own right here if we just did a new curve. Like that. It's like when we save it, it adds a new one. And see, now it's working properly. So there's definitely something going on with when we save that resource. It like adds another point to it. Like if we save this, we come to world and save over right, left. Take our animation, come back to the start. If we save over our right, left thing, it looks like it's working now, but there is definitely another point added, and maybe that'll fix it. But I thought I already did that, and it added one at some point when we were doing stuff. So either way, that's the solution to getting it to work again. Is just to update the path so it doesn't contain more points. And we're ready for the next lecture. I hope you guys all enjoyed this one. I'll see you in the next one.